And now the Democrats have a Bernie problem. They got a big. I mean, listen. You think you're having a bad day? At least not running the DNC, because they have got a crap storm on their hands. I mean, Bernie Sanders is now clearly the front runner. It looks like the one poll that came out isn't an outlier. There's now another poll that came out, a Washington Post poll, showing Bernie Sanders is dominating the Democrat field. In today's Washington Post ABC national poll, not only has Bernie taken the lead, he doubles his nearest opponent, Joe Biden, 32 to 16%. 32. Bernie is the face of the Democrat Party. It looks like it's happening that the socialist movement may really be on the Democrats. This, like Ed Morrissey put it over at hotair.com. And the Democrats are in a world of hurt. World of hurt. They're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't with Bernie Sanders. There's no off-ramp for them. They are so, is a word I want to use that I wouldn't dare use on the radio. I don't often use it in public. You can imagine what word it is. They're hosed. They are in a bad, bad place. I mean, think about, like Scott Jennings, who wrote for USA Today, puts it, what's worse? Choosing a socialist for your party's presidential nominee, or taking the nomination away from the socialist at a contested convention? Bernie Sanders has a stable army, a small dollar donor army. The Bernie bros are there through thick and thin, he writes. Unlike, for example, the fickle supporters of Biden or Elizabeth Warren. Sanders is in a similar position to Donald Trump back in 2016, benefiting from fragmentation below him among people who don't know when to quit. The only difference is that the Republican Party rules allowed Trump to rack up massive delegate hauls in several states, and Sanders can't do it quite that way. The proportional allocation rules of the Democrat primary, they don't have any winner-take-all states in the Democrats. So Sanders is going to have a lot to do to try to grab the 1,991 pledged delegates necessary to win the nomination outright. But if he gets close and falls short, all hell could break loose. Can you imagine, writes Scott Jennings, it's a great piece, by the way. We've got the column posted at mikeonline.com if you want to check it out and read it in its entirety. He says, can you imagine the absolute pandemonium if Sanders shows up in Milwaukee for the convention with the most delegates and leaves without the party nomination? And an immediate question will arise, will Sanders supporters support a Democrat who in their eyes stole the nomination? Well, of course they won't. Do you know that one large study of voters in 2016 showed that 12% of Bernie Sanders supporters voted for Donald Trump? Well, guess what? This happens again. If Bernie Sanders supporters felt violated in 2016, picture that on steroids in 2020. But what happens in the other scenario, asks writer Scott Jennings and pundit Scott Jennings, where Sanders gets the nomination? A major political party would have put a socialist on a plausible path to the White House, a norm-shattering moment in American politics. While Democrats and Republicans have certainly had their differences over the years, both parties tend to nominate candidates from within the traditional guardrails of American policy debate. Well, that would all end with Bernie Sanders. One well-known liberal writer wrote a column called "Running Bernie Against Trump Would Be an Act of Insanity." This is the liberal writer listing Bernie Sanders' insane positions: replacing all private health insurance with a government plan, banning fracking, letting prisoners vote, decriminalizing the border, giving free health care to undocumented immigrants, illegals, eliminating ICE. And that's just the policy stuff. How about the taxes. You know how our taxes are going to have to be increased to pay for Medicare for all and this goofy, stupid promise to eliminate all student loan debt? How about abortion? Sanders always calls abortion, this is a great phrase, health care. I don't think the aborted babies consider abortion health care. And what's bizarre, as Scott Jennings writes, all of Sanders' serious opponents for the nomination have adopted some or all of his extreme positions, giving Trump the ability to call them all socialists. And while a more pragmatic Democrat might be tempted to walk back the insanity in a general election campaign against Trump, Sanders will double down, triple down. Now, Scott Jennings, this Republican advisor, you've probably seen him on CNN before. He said, if you've ever watched CNN, he says, I tend to think it would be worse for Democrats to take the nomination away from Sanders, although choosing someone with such warm feelings for the Soviet Union seems downright crazy too. But there's no doubt that the energy in the Democrat Party is with Bernie and the young left-wing radicals who support him, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. To deny them will splinter the party and suck the energy right out of the left's fall campaign at a time when Trump's supporters are already more excited to vote for him. He concludes by saying, socialism is a harsh mistress. Democrats are damned if they indulge and damned if they don't. You hate to see it. Yeah, I really hate it for them. I hate that the Democrats are in such a bad way right now. Maybe you don't agree with Scott Jennings' take.